Did you know that in 2025, some folks out there are scraping by on just $64 a month from their Social Security retirement benefits? It's a stark reality. While a handful of people are pulling in over $4,800 monthly, others are left with barely enough to cover the basics. The gap between those numbers is jaw-dropping, don't you think? Now, picture this for a second. What if everyone, no matter how long they worked, how much they earned, or how many years they paid into the system, got the exact same check every month? Does that strike you as fair? There's a buzz going around, whispers that are starting to get louder, about a major shakeup to Social Security in the United States. Word on the street, or rather, across social media and various online platforms, is that some folks are floating the idea of a flat payment, maybe around $2,300 a month, for every single beneficiary, regardless of their work history. For those struggling to make ends meet on tiny checks, this could sound like a lifeline. But for others who've spent decades grinding away and pouring more into the system, it might feel like a slap in the face. So, what's the deal? Is this a real plan in the works, or just another wild rumor bouncing around the internet? Would it apply to everyone, or just new retirees? And if you're already cashing those checks, would your payment stay the same or get flipped upside down? In this deep dive, we're going to unpack what's true, what's speculation, and what it all could mean for your wallet in the years ahead. We'll look at who might come out ahead, who could lose out, and how these rumored changes, if they ever happen, might ripple through your financial future. No hype, no scare tactics, just the facts as we know them, mixed with some of the chatter that's got people talking. Stick with us to the end, because this could be a game changer for your retirement plans. Let's clear the fog and get into the nitty-gritty right now. Digging into the details. Alright, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the meat of what's happening, or might be happening, with Social Security. The idea of everyone getting the same amount each month is intriguing, sure, but it's not as simple as it sounds. There are a ton of unanswered questions swirling around, and we're going to break it all down so you can see how it might hit your bank account month after month. Headlines are one thing, but understanding the real impact? That's a whole different ballgame. First off, let's talk about how Social Security works today, because that's the baseline we're starting from. Right now, it's not some random lottery where everyone gets the same prize. Your monthly benefit is calculated based on your earnings history and how many years you paid into the system through payroll taxes. The more you earned, up to a certain cap, and the longer you worked, the bigger your check, generally speaking. It's a formula, not a free-for-all. For example, the SSA looks at your 35 highest earning years, adjusts them for inflation, and plugs them into a calculation that spits out your benefit amount. If you didn't work 35 years, they fill in those gaps with zeros, which drags your average down. That's why someone who worked a high-paying job for decades might get thousands a month, while someone with a shorter or lower-earning career might end up with a lot less, like that $64 figure we mentioned. There's also a minimum benefit in place for folks who qualify but didn't earn much over their lifetime. As of now, that floor is pretty low, which is why you hear about people getting checks that barely cover a week's groceries. On the flip side, the maximum benefit for someone retiring at full retirement age in 2025 can climb over $4,000, depending on their earnings and when they start collecting. That's the system as it stands, a setup that rewards higher contributions but still tries to catch those who fall through the cracks. Now, here's where things get spicy. There's talk floating around online, on X, in forums, and even in some YouTube videos, about flipping this whole structure on its head. The rumor? A flat payment, possibly around $2,300 a month, for every single Social Security recipient, no matter what they did for a living or how much they paid in. That's a massive shift. If you're barely getting by on $500 a month, that could be a huge boost. But if you're pulling in $3,500 because you worked 40 years at a solid job, you might see that as a cut, and a big one. Is this actually on the table, though? As of March 23, 2025, there's no official word from the SSA or Congress about a plan like this. It's circulating out there in the digital ether, but we can't stamp it as fact just yet. What do you think? Have you seen this idea popping up in your feeds? Drop a comment below and let us know. How would this even work? Let's say, for argument's sake, that this flat payment idea is being seriously considered somewhere in Washington. How would they roll it out? It's not like they could snap their fingers and change everything overnight. Social Security is a behemoth. Over 72 million people get benefits as of this year, from retirees to disabled workers to survivors. Rewriting the rules for that many folks would take time, planning, and a whole lot of money. So, let's walk through what this might look like in practice. If the goal is a fixed $2,300 monthly payment, or whatever number they land on, the transition wouldn't be instant. Experts who've studied Social Security reform say big changes like this could take anywhere from 5 to 15 years to fully phase in. Why so long? For one, they'd need to figure out how to adjust existing beneficiaries without causing chaos. If you're already getting $4,000 a month, they're not likely to slash it to $2,300 next week. That'd spark a revolt. More likely, they'd freeze your payment or reduce it gradually, maybe by a percentage each year, until it hits the target. Meanwhile, folks getting less than $2,300 could see their checks creep up over time, maybe through bigger cost of living adjustments, COLAs, or special increases. That gradual approach sounds reasonable on paper, but it's where the rubber meets the road for a lot of people. Imagine you're someone who's been counting on that $3,000 check because you paid into Social Security for 40 years at a decent salary. Suddenly, you're told it's going to shrink over the next decade to match everyone else's. You might feel cheated, like the system you banked on is pulling the rug out from under you. On the flip side, if you're barely scraping by on $800, those incremental bumps could mean the difference between paying rent and couch surfing. It's a trade-off, and not everyone's going to be happy about it. Then there's the funding question: where's the cash coming from? Social Security's already on shaky ground. The trustees who oversee the program say the trust fund that pays retirement benefits could run dry by 2033 or 2035, depending on which report you read. After that, without changes, they'd only be able to pay about 79% of promised benefits from incoming payroll taxes. A flat payment for everyone could make that deadline even tighter if it means shelling out more to low earners without bringing in extra revenue. Some folks online suggest they'd offset it by cutting benefits for high earners, like freezing their COLAs or trimming their checks by 5% a year. Others say they'd need to hike payroll taxes or tap into general federal funds. But as of now, it's all speculation. No official proposal has laid out the math. What's your take? Would you be cool with higher taxes to fund a flat rate, or does that sound like a raw deal? The fairness debate. This whole concept hinges on one big, messy question: what's fair? Right now, Social Security is built on the idea that you get out what you put in, up to a point. It's not a pure one-to-one match. Higher earners get a smaller percentage of their income replaced, but it's contribution-based. A flat payment throws that out the window. Everyone gets the same, whether you flipped burgers for 10 years or ran a company for 40. That's got people split right down the middle. On one hand, supporters of this idea, assuming it's real and not just internet noise, say it could be a game changer for fighting poverty among seniors. The SSA estimates millions of retirees live below the poverty line, even with Social Security. A guaranteed $2,300 a month could lift a lot of them out of that hole, covering basics like food, housing, and meds. It's hard to argue against helping folks who are struggling, especially when $64 a month isn't cutting it in 2025's economy. Inflation's been a beast, and costs for everything from groceries to utilities keep climbing. A flat rate could be a safety net for the most vulnerable, and that's a compelling case. But here's the flip side: if you've worked your tail off, paid higher taxes, and built your retirement around a bigger benefit, a flat payment might feel like a punishment. Why bother grinding for decades if you end up with the same check as someone who barely contributed? Critics online are already saying it could kill the incentive to work hard or pay into the system. If everyone's guaranteed $2,300, why not coast through life, do the minimum, and wait for the payout? It's a fair point. Social Security's always been a mix of welfare and earned reward, and this would tilt it hard toward welfare. What do you think? Would a flat rate make people lazy, or is that overblown? Winners and losers. So, who'd come out on top if this rumor turned into reality? Let's break it down. If you're in that bottom tier, say, getting $500 or $1,000 a month, this could be a windfall. An extra grand or more each month could transform your life, especially if you're juggling bills on a razor-thin budget. Retirees living in poverty, folks with spotty work histories, or those who never earned much could finally breathe a little easier. That's millions of people, and for them, $2,300 might feel like hitting the jackpot, but if you're on the higher end, pulling $3,000, $4,000, or more, you'd likely take a hit. Maybe not right away, but over time, as your benefit gets whittled down to the flat rate. That's money you planned on, money you earned through years of taxes. Losing it could mean rethinking your retirement, cutting back on travel, moving to a cheaper place, or even going back to work. It's not just about lifestyle either. Higher earners often argue they've kept the system afloat with their contributions. Seeing that redistributed might sting, and what about current versus future beneficiaries? That's another big unknown. If this flat payment idea ever happens, would it apply to everyone right away, or just new retirees? The SSA's already rolling out changes like the Social Security Fairness Act, which boosts benefits for some public workers starting in April 2025. They've got their hands full, so a massive overhaul might start with fresh claimants and leave existing ones alone, at least for a while. But there's no hard info here, just guesses based on what's floating around. Have you heard anything about this from reliable sources? Let us know below. The bigger picture. Let's zoom out for a sec. Social Security's been around since the 1930s, and it's always been a balancing act, part safety net, part reward for work. The trust fund's looming shortfall has lawmakers scrambling for fixes, from raising the retirement age to tweaking taxes. This flat payment rumor fits into that messy conversation. How do we keep the program alive and fair? Some see it as a step toward a universal basic income for seniors. Everyone gets a baseline, no questions asked. Others see it as a betrayal of the system's roots. The reality? No one knows if this $2,300 figure, or any flat rate, is legit. It's popping up on X and other platforms, but without a bill, a statement from the SSA, or anything concrete. It's just noise for now. The SSA's focused on stuff like the 2.5% COLA for 2025 and paying out retroactive benefits from the Fairness Act. A total redesign? That's a heavier lift, and we'd need more than rumors to buy it. Still, the idea's worth chewing on, because it forces us to think about what Social Security should be. Your voice matters, so where do you land on this? Does a flat payment sound like a fix for inequality, or a kick in the teeth to hard workers? Would it help more people than it hurts, or just mess up a system that's already limping along? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've seen this $2,300 number floating around, tell us where. We'll keep digging for the truth. Stick with us for updates, because if anything solid drops, you'll hear it here first. Your financial future might just depend on it.